The word iota has two distinct meanings. As a noun, 1. A tiny or scarcely detectable amount. 2. The ninth letter of the Greek alphabet.
Good morning. Today, welcome to IoTA. It's Friday, August 5th, 2016. I'm Tony Lynn. IoTA is a daily news podcast focused on the Internet of Things industry and all the cool and fun things that are going on in this industry. And I said industry twice, so you must know it's a great Friday morning. Let's get to the stories of the day. So last week I brought you the story about the Thread Group and the Open Connectivity Foundation joining forces to ensure interoperability among devices. This is good news for Microsoft, reports Agam Shah of PC World. Microsoft wants to put Windows 10 at the center of smart homes. Imagine having Cortana as your personal voice assistant that can control your whole house. This only works if all the devices can talk to each other. Microsoft plans to integrate the OCF protocols into Windows 10 by 2017. Although I'm curious, will there be a Windows 10 in 2017 or would they already be on 11? This is Microsoft's shot across the bow, obviously, to Amazon, who was with their Alexa, or their Amazon Echo, rather, is already in that space quite well entrenched at this point. Microsoft is betting on the fact that because it's also attached to your desktop PC, that it'll have more utility than the Echo, because the Echo is not. The Echo is completely standalone. So it'd be interesting to see what Microsoft does with this. I hope this is not another an attempt for Microsoft like their media center turned out to be, and didn't really go anywhere. They keep trying to control the home and they keep not really getting there. So Microsoft, figure out how to work it. Otherwise, Bob O'Donnell from Recode reports that many companies are finding IoT success by carving out a vertical niche. Barb argues that companies initially casted a wide net when it came to IoT, using it as a way to expand their current offerings. But those deployments actually fell short. Now, companies such as Qualcomm are finding that by specializing in specific areas of IoT, that they are getting more traction in the market. Dell's another company that has discovered that a focused IoT offering is a better approach than casting that wide net. You know, this, like, again, we keep talking about how everybody's trying to get into this. Everybody's trying to figure out what to do with it. And a lot of these traditional, hardware manufacturers, initially just were throwing out everything in the kitchen sink, and realizing that, that kind of dilutes their brand a little bit. And it also makes for some confusion as far as what they're offering and how it's useful. And now that they realize that if they just focus on a small bit of that IoT space, they will indeed get a nice market share. And frankly, there's enough money to go around for everyone in this space. So here's our fun story of the day. For those of you excited about the Summer Olympics, which start tonight, I don't know if you are like me. I always love the opening and closing ceremonies, and then I never really watch otherwise. Certainly, I think Daniel Tosh has said it, that my patriotism does not hinge on the fact that the Olympics are going on. So anyway, but John Kennedy of Silicon Republic reports that Vodafone has developed a smart swimwear that has built-in UV sensors that can notify the user when they've had too much sun. You'd think you would know that. It does this in a couple of ways, one with a mobile app, and the second with a small vibrating alert built into the swimwear itself. It also has a low-powered SIM tracking that will help find a user should they get lost. This obviously is focused mostly on children. So you go to the beach, you've got your kids, they're running around doing crazy stuff. You keep trying to put sunscreen on them, you can never find them, you don't know where they're at. They're in the water, they're in the sand, who knows? So this is really designed as a way that, mom and dad can pull up a phone, see if the kids have had too much sun, and if you can't find them specifically at that moment, it will actually help locate them wherever they're at on the beach. I'm happy to see more of these kind of stories. This one seems a little silly to me, though. I think having the ability to monitor these type of things, and certainly from the standpoint of smart clothing, this gives you some insight as to where maybe clothing might be going. The application, however, well, I think there's probably better ways to do this. It's almost like using a television to babysit your children, and it's the phoning in of the, no pun intended, actually maybe it was, of your duties. Optus Wholesale is to provide mobile-to-mobile IoTs and services as part of their offerings. Corrine Reichert of ZDNet explains that Optus Wholesale and 2SG Wholesale have banded together to sell white-labeled IoT devices aimed for the mining, security, transport, and healthcare industries. And normally this wouldn't really be a story. The fact that now there is a wholesale ability for some of these devices, I think, is the interesting part. Currently, if you're trying to do a mass deployment, either you're having to do a mass run on a manufacturing side of the house where you have to build, your particular your device and then have it, manufactured and flashed and then shipped to wherever you need it to go. And those are pretty expensive. I mean, they're not cheap at all. Or you're buying something off the shelf, and buying off the shelf, that also can get expensive. I met with a company yesterday that they're doing just that, and as they become more and more busy, for lack of a better term, in the market, and they start to make larger deployments, now those calls for buying off the shelf become, detrimental to their profits. So this is a good idea. This is a great thing to see, is that some wholesale capability is going to exist. I just don't know that there's going to be enough there to be sold in the short term to make it worth our while. I mean, again, we're still in this divergent process of trying to throw everything out and see what actually sticks. We're in the spaghetti phase, if you will, of IoT. All right, so we've heard this before many, many times, but Nathan Eddy of Information Week tells us that IoT devices will exceed mobile phones by as early as 2018. Currently, about 70% of those devices are GSM only, and he also warns that the complexity of IoT projects well exceeds what companies can internally handle. I only put this in the lineup mainly because most of the estimates we've seen up until now have been at 2020. No one's really tried to go closer than this, and this is the first time that I've seen that they're saying that IoT will actually exceed mobile phones, within just a couple of years of where we're at today, actually about a year and a half. So this is interesting that they're going to do that. The other interesting part about the article is that although most of the devices currently are in a cellular type capacity, about 70% of them are GSM. What's not out there yet is the en masse move to either LTE or some other low power, or not low power, but low bandwidth type of projects. And so right now the carriers still have a lot to say about this, and they didn't go into what they expect that to look like in 2017 or 2018, but the fact of it is where they're at now. And in the final bit, again, was the internal companies are struggling with the complexity of it. Let's face it, is that most companies struggle with the whole, bring your own device anyway. And what existed, I know when I was probably about 10 years ago, is that if you wanted a cell phone or whatever for wherever you worked, it had to be one that was approved by them, managed by them, and everything else. In fact, I've got a buddy of mine who actually carries two cell phones now, because one's provided by his work and can only be used for work, but he's so paranoid about them knowing what he's doing, even though he's not doing anything, that he carries a second cell phone for everything else. And it's quite interesting to watch him take 2 phone calls at once. But anyway, the point here is that most companies are still struggling with this, and it's going to get worse as these devices overtake cell phones. So IT companies, there may be an opportunity there for you as well. Well, guys, that's it for this week. That's week 3 at this point. We're having a good time, and I hope that you are too. Please start to send me feedback. We've gotten our first feedback this week, which was great. Actually, I've gotten a request from an Android user to make sure that the feed actually works for Android, which I'm going to be working over the weekend, make sure that happens. If you have any ideas for stories, you have any desire to maybe come and guest host, or you might want to be interviewed as part of our interview series, please drop me a line at tonamuck@gmail.com. If you want to support the show, you like what we're doing and you want to see more and want us to continue to flesh out our offerings, please visit our Patreon at patreon.com/tonamuck. You can find me on Twitter at tonamuck, and I check it daily. Plus any of my work, if you want to just check out and see what projects I'm currently working on, go to www.tonamuck.com. Until next week, it's till Monday, we'll have a good weekend, and we'll see you then.